happy? Are we happy and effective? Consultation with leading experts in the field makes it perfectly clear that we are all now programmed for perfect happiness. Perfect happiness. Perfect
Hello
happiness.
everyone, Master Z1001 here, and in this video we're just going to be talking about Boxcutter, going through an adventure I like to call Boxcity, of just getting up in the morning and cutting a box. Kind of jumped in this just right after waking up without even drinking coffee or anything. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to press Shift Spacebar to Control Spacebar to maximize to view. I'm going to press Alt V to jump to EVHQ, which will also set up my shading for this view. We'll set it to random, and I'm also going to press Q, C sharp, and just put a nice little bevel on it. From here, I'm going to press Alt W, start Boxcutter, and I'm just going to do some cuts and talk about things. So right here, we see that the cut inside the bevel, so it's basically a bevel and a cut. A new feature added was the sort modifiers, which a thing I've been enjoying doing lately is putting a bevel and then putting a weighted normal. And in addition to that, I'll also use the symmetry from hard ops using Alt X. And we'll use bisect and actually split that, so now it's half the cube it was. We'll put that here, or actually we have to put it here now because of some glitches. But with that, we can actually cut and it should remain reactive. Let's turn this one off. No, it's still not working. What do we do wrong here? Let's see, where's it put that modifier? So it's putting it at the very front. Also, we have to change this to angle. So now, every cut that we do will have a nice little bevel going on. And a lot of the classic hard ops functions will have survived, such as Bevel multiplier / divider, which I used a lot when I was working on Osiris New Dawn, along with Material Cut, which isn't quite supported yet in Boxcutter. One of the things I wanted to emphasize is that notice that I can use the yellow box, I can press X, I can choose to reject it, I can press X and choose to get it back. So this was a major thing. We wanted to make sure that users could fluidly change their mind on certain decisions without fear of repercussion and crashes. So we'll just keep on cutting here, just cutting in red box. And this is kind of the regimen I go through daily with Boxcutter to get a proper test going, just to make sure everything's functioning optimally. With this particular release, we wanted to bring each thing in one by one and kind of re-examine what it brought to the table and how we can improve it. So I'm getting a lot of requests for Ngon. Just know that Ngon is definitely on the table. Blue box also on the table. Very crucial functions that I did not want to lose for any amount of time at all, personally. We'll press B to jump into Bevel. The thing about Bevel too is that there are segments up here where you can set up your bevel before, but one of my favorite things about the new Boxcutter is if you choose Bevel as a tool, you can draw bevels in advance. So basically, if you're doing that rounded pass where you're just slipping down the surface, you know, to just add some of these things. A common thing I like to do, it's just easier than ever. And there's also been fixes to create a clamp to prevent any sort of overlap. Right here you can notice the shading breaking down. What we'll do is turn on the weighted normal and lower B width just a tad. And you'll notice that working like this, as strange as it is having your mirror modifier in such a bad order that it goes against my personal logic, the results are just fantastic. And also being able to kind of mirror to the other side in the meantime. I'm already starting to receive messages every time I start recording. It's development time. Wonder what they're saying. But let's continue this cube here. Gotta maintain that train of thought. So this workflow is something we call boxcity because I mean, what else can you call it? Just boxcity. We'll cut to here, press X because we want that back. Just something about cutting with random colors on that I find personally hypnotizing. I just can't get enough of it. The other thing is the real-time cut feedback. This was something we did not have in 2.49, and when we began porting, it was the first 2.8 exclusive gift that was bestowed upon us. So I look forward to seeing if other cutting tools of the same ilk pick up that same ability, because it's just fantastic. There's also a second option up here, pause, where basically you can use this similar to the way it was last version, where it doesn't cut until you apply it, but there's just less fun to that. So we will turn back on live cutting. And just cut there. And these things, you know, I just kind of give them a little bit of time, just cutting around, goofing off. Usually at the same time I'm doing this, I'm talking with Proxy, discussing things that are driving me crazy in real time and whatnot. Also, you know, AR, also a major part. So right here I'll press 3 and grab this and just move it back. The old classic slide. Also face dots. Face dots need to come back to the defaults. I already forgot how to turn them back on. I'm afraid to look for it in this video. So continuing on, now that we slid that back, we can have a word with this thing. So let's talk about array. Let's go to array, and with array we can select our shape, draw a box, press V, not B, roll the wheel, and so this is the cut we've made. We'll click to apply, and we actually cut a little too close. So I'm going to press Control Spacebar, enable cutters. Actually, I have to enable them the hard way, but we'll find it. And we'll just move that out, and that's just easier than dealing with anything else. In fact, just having to do this process reminds me that some automation will be needed there. So coming soon. I think we actually already have that. Let me press Escape. Let's choose Array, because we want to draw a series of cuts. And the interesting thing now is you can press F, and it will flip it, similar to as you see going on here. We're also going to make it where it will flip array. From here I'm going to hold Shift so I can keep this shape for a moment because I want to talk to it. We're just going to put it over here, and boxcity continues. But there's just something about seeing this in action that just is hypnotizing. And we can see our feedback on the other side to know what our outcome is going to look like. So something like that, and then we'll come down here and let's cancel that. Let's go to regular draw because we don't want an array. We just want to come down here and cut that off. So if you're using Boxcutter without hard ops, I definitely recommend using it with hard ops at this time, since a lot of the function that you're going to regain back will come through using hard ops in the shift behaviors. Like, for example, a lot of people asking about NGON. You know, in the meantime, I would just use shapes and control minus to get them connected, but we definitely have some big plans on making NGON the most impressive tool. You know, every tool now has a a 3D counterpart. So circle 3D counterpart is the new thing to this version that no one's talking about. But hold shift and double click to select these. There's a lot of you know, using this new system, I realized I used to have to press a lot of keys. You know, I was into it. You know, it was okay. Right here, we see this bevel just doesn't look as good as it could look. I mean, the bevel modifier could always use a little more love, but we'll use clean mesh to just fix that just a little bit more. And let's change this back to red box. And we're just going to keep cutting. So I want to show you something I was doing last night that I was just having too much fun with. You cut in, you press X, press B, get a nice little bevel. You know, let's get a hard one going. Let's keep that shape. Let's sharp this shape. Let's go in edit mode, and selection is still kind of weird. I noticed that when I go in local mode and I do a selection, let's try that again. I go in local mode and do a selection, and I'll start moving things and it'll just disappear out of freaking local mode. Drives me nuts, but wouldn't go back to 2.79 for anything at this point. Only for comparison. So now that we got our piece, we made just a little bit thinner. Let's use some. Wait. We did a yellow box. What we meant to do was a red box. So one of the benefits to having this rewrite for Boxcutter is definitely, in my opinion, having all the tools have the same features. In the previous versions, it was slightly embarrassing, in my opinion, this is why blue box is important. By cutting some edges in, we can actually make this mesh take what we're trying to give it. But also, we have to give with the bevel a little bit because we're getting so narrow. So we don't want to get too small. And we'll come here, K, C, and then Z is in big, zebra, to just cut through. And this is kind of a you know, good lesson in how to deal with some of these problems. I do watch you know, if anyone posts Boxcutter content, you know, if you're ever trying to get my attention, just do a Boxcutter video. I'll be all over it. You know, we'll all be all over it. The whole team will be watching the video, talking about, you know, hey, this part right here, it looks like you were struggling. Was that our fault? You know, so any sort of input in the form of video content is definitely more than appreciated. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Comfy B, who put out a very nice Boxcutter video the other day. I do want to do some videos on here where we kind of do some highlights of you know, community postings and talk about improvements and whatnot, and also it would dictate the development of this tool. We will C sharp, lower the B weight. Let's take this in local mode. So this is just way too small. So we'll press 3, grab this face, move it, and we stay in local mode this time, guys. So it's an improvement. And you know, first thing we'll do is we'll slice this part off. Just something about slice now, guys. It's just crazy. Proxy has really outdone himself on this particular release. But the real surprises, in my opinion, will be when AR further refines it, because, you know, Boxcutter is truly his tool. Let's cut here. Let's look at it from here. You know, I miss having view location. Not that it would have helped me here, but the final idea of what it should have been would have done that, which is a type of helper that user's place that helps them set their view and then jumps back to their view was the idea I was thinking. But we do want to bring that back in 2.8 and make it even better than ever, because view orientation is key for perfect cutting. Right here, looks like we just can't grab the lip here, or maybe we're just grabbing too much. So we're just working on this box, just talking, you know, just you and me. And notice that the whole time I'm in non-destructive, so until I C#, mostly everything is kept live. But let us continue. So right here, I'm going to just bring in a red, press X, take this piece, sharpen it, press X, cycle it to this, use a little bit of laser cut to accelerate it to its final destination. That shape was shaking. Look. Oh, it's not shaking anymore. This shape needs a smaller bevel. So as the cuts get smaller and smaller, you're going to need a lower and lower bevel modifier. I saw some people commenting about there being a glitch with 2.8 and the normal shader. That's why, you know, fall back to a classic system. So let's talk about circle. And also repeat shape. Repeat shape, I love it. Repeat shape, gotta come back to repeat shape. This one is also another new gift of 2.8. So we just drop a shape, we hold control, drop it again. So this is just amazing to me. You know, it really helps me channel my inner Vitali. You know, I just know that when I bust open ThreadOx to finish that, or I go in here and start making a sci-fi floor, that putting these little ticks will just be the deal. They'll just seal it, you know. So you can even select another part, start putting little ticks there. Just itty bitty ticks, just everywhere. Like, hey, what's that tick? Well, you know, just a tick. You know, learned it from Vitali. You're having these ticks everywhere. So, continuing on, we'll go ahead and select the circle, and let's talk about circle a bit. So right now, circle defaults to this corner draw, which drives me insane. You know, we argue about it internally to the death. I preach no Ovaltine, please. They're like, you know, it could be cool if you roll down the segments to, which you can't do in this view right now. We haven't set the hotkey for that. But really, you want to jump into center draw. And eventually, circle will default to center draw. Notice right here that the bevel breaks down. What can we do to fix that? I bet we can roll a couple of loops in here in edit mode, and that'll give it a little bit to jump off of. So now we're dropping circles. You know, one of the things you never see me doing is going in edit mode and using Boxcutter with the red box to cut, because it's possible. I mean, it's possible right now. You could do it, but for reasons I don't. So we're just dropping happy circles. I'm so glad to see circle in 3D, but this isn't the level that I envisioned. I don't know if any of you guys are using Fusion 360, but I absolutely love the hole tool. I think we can make a hole tool that is better in Blender, and also more versatile, more repeatable, with you know, gizmos and stuff for all that fancy business. So it's something that we're brainstorming, but I think we should get Blue Box and Ngon back to the masses first before we double back on these features to issue killing strokes. So with our cube here looking kind of serious, you know, we're just still in just regular shading view. Even this view is awesome, and I accidentally drew the box in corner view, so shifting from corner to box should change these as well. You know, it's just a matter of me complaining about it long enough and then it will happen. So right here, I'm doing a very dangerous cut. You know, chances of this cut being successful are slim, especially right there. So because I locked the shape by pressing tab, I can move around the view and just look at what this is going to do. Which, yeah, I can even press numpad 1 and press G. Nope, can't use G from this view. Well guys, next time. The workflow is almost complete there, where I could say, hey, let's look at this problem, discuss this problem mid-cut, and how to solve it and prevent it. But instead, let's just do another cut. So, next time, guys, next time. So, oh, actually, I just realized today's the day. That's why everybody's writing me. So, continuing on, we're just going to cut a few little happy and unhappy notches. Use Control Repeat to put more notches. Right now, we are having an internal debate on this system for repeat shape, because I personally feel that repeat shape should drop the shape, then a second click should do it. However, Proxy is of the opinion that we should reduce the clicks and make it as effortless as possible, which is its current state. Also less work for him, but that's something that, you know, as you use this tool, you know, something to ponder on. If you come up with an idea on it, on a, you know, cool way repeat shape should be done, because I definitely want to have a stepped version. You know, with all these cutting tools, because the Boolean modifier can be so finicky at times, it's always essential, in my opinion, to have a simple stepped process. You know, to show you an example of that, let's just bring in a cube, and we'll just press 3. I'm still getting used to the modeling system. The lack of hidden wire for retopology has kind of been what stopped me from going really ambitious in 2.8 so far, like making a robot or something, which is what I'm dying to get to. Ingon is also needed. Ingon and Blue Box, I feel, are personally needed for my robot endeavors. But I just got this cube here, and also I saw a shading issue. Sometimes I can't tell if it's a shadow playing tricks on me, or if it's actually a shading artifact, because I do try to deal with those very quickly and not let them stay for any amount of time. But here's a perfect example of a stepped workflow. AR will select this and choose slash, and he'd call it a day. Me, I would select this, use Control Numpad minus to cut inside of it, and perfect the idea. And for some reason, wires just get hard to select nowadays, guys, so be prepared for that. So, you know, I'd rotate it, get it at a good angle, really think about it. And from here, I have two choices. I could either add some thickness, or we can just press Q, and because it's a pending Boolean situation, we can do C slash. And that would have worked, except in this situation, we have too many Booleans live from Boxcutter. So we are talking about a way to improve C slash as well, where basically if you select the mesh and you select the object and you choose C slash, it will give you back the cut that was put in there specifically, while ignoring the rest and keeping them live. But you know, over the course of using Boxcutter, I hope you guys have noticed our emphasis now with the non-destructive workflow. So we do have more plans to expand on this even more, especially on the hard op side, since that's the system side of things. But it is a very nice thing to see in 2.8, since some of the increased stability with things makes it better to keep things live, compared to before, where we had a very heavy-handed approach because it made the viewport faster. Over here, it's just faster. We'll just apply it. I don't even know how I was able to hide and unhide the mesh like that. Also, let's go back to the outline and turn that off. For this cut, in order for it to work, we will need to K, C, Z, and let go. And so as this video goes on, I'm getting more and more into it. Because we're getting there, guys. Population, however many people watch this video now, Box City. And just continuing these cuts here. Let's take a look at what we got here. So inserts, we don't have inserts. You know, early on in hard ops when we added the insert system, I was like, man, we have to have hard ops and Boxcutter logos for people to cut down, because branding is so important. It's so important to know who cut you. You know, you don't even have to tell them why. Just tell them Boxcutter did it, you know? So let's play with the layer system. I've been kind of goofing off with this, preparing to make a workflow out of this. So all the slices I also would rather put in this collection, but that's going to cause an error. I just know it. So let's just create a new collection. Is this 5? So layer 5 is this. We also fixed the snapping pie menus. So I'll put a link of that in the description of the video in case you need that for 2.8. But the snapping pies was just one of my favorites. I just can't live without it. I've been using it so long. In the new hard ops, there is a Q option for 2D bevel. If you're using a plane or an object that is very thin, you can use 2D bevel from the main menu. So we'll use that here. And then I'm going to go under here and choose convert to mesh because Alt-C is gone, and we haven't yet made hard ops and quick favorites play nice yet, but we're definitely going to do that ASAP. And we're just going to split this off, and you know, let's just delete it, add a new plane, and we'll select this, press J, press 3, go to face. Let's press period and change this to 3D cursor, which is our you know, medium point. We'll press Y to split it and then scale it in so it scales in at the 3D cursor. We'll press I to inset, Control L, Shift H, and then we will use K. Select this, press C, drag over, press E to end that cut. Select this one, cut, enter. So now we can go back to 3, we can delete this and this, and we can also go invert mode with 1 and delete that. Well, delete, I'm saying Control X actually is what I'm pressing. And let's try putting a vert there and dissolving it. That'll let us bevel this. So whoever says ingons are bad, ingons definitely have their use. So we'll select this, 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 and this, and let's bevel it. And let's undo and grab this one. And let's bring this in a little more. Let's select this, press P to separate. So we'll just press F and give this thickness. We'll press 2 in order to push it out on opposite sides. And we'll also change this to a wire mode. And for this, we'll also give it thickness. And then we will select this and press Control P, transform. So now we have our Boxcutter shape. So let's enable our collection. Let's enable our slices. What the heck are layers now? Layers are weird. So I'm still getting used to things here. But, you know, hashtag default game. Because I usually don't change the controls because I want to be as accessible to outsiders as possible. So if you come into Blender, I'll be happy to meet you. But, you know, I talk to so many people that are like, I'm using 3ds Max configs, using Maya configs. Come on, we already changed our stuff over for you to what it is now. And you still want to use a custom key map? Give me a break, you guys. That's just my opinion. Sorry to rant there. So we will just cut this in. And unlike Boxcutter, which has sort modifiers, Hard Ops doesn't. So for this, we're going to need to do a series of hard decisions. First, we're going to need to apply the mirror. Then we're going to need to C#. And you're done. Now the other thing is that we want to press Alt X and mirror that. But we want to put the mirror above the weighted normal, but after the bevel, because we're insane. Okay? I know. That goes against everything you've said for like 4 years of ordering modifiers and your tutorial on Blender Cookie. I know, guys. I know. Do it. You know, bad Kermit. That's why I got them on my hat. Because in 2.8, you gotta, speaking of that, Hard Ops hats. Go get them. Black Friday deal still going on them. This right here, unacceptable. But how unacceptable is it? It's actually very unacceptable. Let's bring that back. You know, and there's functions in here actually that could make this easier. Like, I don't know why I'm not using them, to be honest. We can go here, go to bool scroll, do object scroll, and we find the offender so fast. So the question is, why am I goofing off? Because old habits die hard. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, we have functions to fix stuff, and just sometimes I just go about it classic just to keep my salt alive. So we've been looking at this for a minute like this. Let's go ahead and jump it over to look dev. And also I'm going to save it at this point, and we're going to call this 77 cuts 2 _ 1. Right here. Every time I move a vert, I hear the phrase "how to save a life" in my head, you know, because we just saved its life. We can press 2, dissolve that, and there's always going to be a little bit of babying, especially if you do random cuts, which is what made Blue Box such a legend. Like, knife is great, but if you have to use the knife all the time, it's not so great. So when Blue Box comes, it will be a party. It will be a celebration, at least on my side, you know, and on Twitter if you're following me. You know, I'm trying to become more active on Twitter. People are so much nicer there. Everything on Facebook's always not. Send this to 10 friends and you will be blessed. Get out of here, please. So, continuing on, we will cut some edges in here and dissolve the edges that just didn't work out. Like, right here to here, we'll do that cut. That way we can get rid of those. And usually I don't even have to do that because I kind of manage my scene so much, but let me show you how to crash Blender so fast. Metallic. Lower to roughness. Oh, look at Blender making a fool out of me. I didn't even update it today. So this is my morning box cut, guys. You know, first box of the day before I even get with anyone about glitches and bugs, which, you know, Boxcutter has received an immense amount of stability updates. So I want y'all to know, since the release, you know, me and Proxy pretty much hang out all night. Alarm, get out of here. Look, guys, I can only talk so long before someone's gonna freaking call me. I just know it. It always happens. I just realized that someone's gonna call me. We gotta get through this. So, anyways, me and Proxy usually spend all night dealing with Boxcutter, talking about it, just goofing off, playing some Mario Kart, talking about Dead Cells. You know, I also love that game. This box right here needs more cuts. I'm gonna save it because we're gonna start cutting in rendered mode, because this is just, I never thought this would be my life, you know. Like, Blender, what have you become? Like, what happened? You used to be such a good kid, and you've become this. Just so much power. So let's Shift A, add a irradiance volume. Shift A, add a reflection cube map. Let's turn off that visibility, so that way it's doing its thing, but we're not seeing it. And let's just select some pieces and do some things with it, like you know, with the bodies. Hanging out with my sensei Tony, who's, you know, Boxcutter tester #1 now, in my opinion. He's you know, he's at the level where he's teaching me things about not that one, not that one. That one will crash you guys. Like all this real time, fun time stuff will crash you if you don't, you know, watch out. Maybe red's a little too much. If I leave it red, someone that knows me is going to be like, hey man, saw you put that red box out there. Thought we taught you better than that years ago. So let's go here and let's go to slice. Let's draw a yellow box here. So I know that I'm, you know, doing a terrible job at covering all the updates and changes. For those guys, I would say you definitely should just check out the update logs, since those I kind of sit down with the coders and go over each of them and explain how I'm going to explain them to the users and whatnot. So definitely check out those update logs. And we're just going to take some stuff back. We don't have material cutter yet. You know, it came up. All this stuff always comes up. It's like, man, I bet you miss material cutter. It's like, you're damn right I do. And so many cuts are live. Like, I mean, you know, we're applying things as we go, but there's also a lot that we're not. Let's see what shape that was. That's what shape that was. So we want to isolate that one. Maybe give it like a darker, shinier metal. Also, when I see a shading artifact, like right there, you know, I saw that. Why'd that happen? That's why it happened. How will we fix this? If we had blue box, we'd be like, bam! What accident? But instead, we will do K, C, Z, and call it a day right there. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that, maybe get rid of that, and we look at our shape and it's perfectly fine. Actually, no. The same problem still happens, which probably could have been solved from us just moving that over, and also making sure that the weighted normal modifier is here. We could also check keep sharp, but lately I've been experimenting with how to best use this thing, and I found that shading looks better when I have it kept off versus keep sharp, which kind of lets me bevel sharp edges for the second time, which isn't always the best result. So we will select this, Control L, materials, and I'm still torn. I don't know, do I love this box? There we go. I love this box. This box is getting there. You know what would really make this box cool? Because I cannot let the video end without a cool box. We have to accept that is a hotline. If I've ever seen one, like right there, we have to uplift our yellow boxes. I was about to say something else, but be too close to home because my skin is also yellow. So let's put this cut in here. Let's look at this. This was a mistake. I can tell. Let's hide it. Total mistake. Oh, wow. You look inside a box and wow. You just... Big mistake, though. And it's because I cut across the mirror point, so I have to press undo a few more times than usual nowadays in 2.8. No biggie, just what's with all these undo keys I have to press? Yeah, I'm just talking about modeling at the same time as I'm working here, just thinking out loud. You know, what else can you do when you're modeling? Made the same mistake again. Let's try it one more time. You know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, stop it. Stop. So we will apply this one, and we will give it this color. Let me just show you the fun of cutting in this real-time view. Alright. And then we'll hold Shift in order to keep this shape. So that way we can select it and move it down. And notice that even when we do it in edit mode, it just cuts. And where's our shape at? Right here. So we want to apply the first boolean. And every time I come in edit mode, my fingers instinctively jump for the blue box hotkeys of the same thing as Boxcutter. Like, I just want to bring our boxes home, you know. They're out there stuck in the war. Like, we gotta bring those boxes home. Hashtag bring home our boxes. We will select this shape, get a good look at it, and bada bing, bada boom. Let's do another cut here. We'll cut in deep, but we'll take this shape. First apply this intersect boolean, go in local mode, 3. So I mean, there's just no way to tell if you're in face select mode or any other mode. You need the face dots. But in my opinion, 2.8 is almost there. I mean, I probably could actually just make a robot if I was just stubborn, you know, just wanted to do things the hard way. I could, but retopology and surface refinement is a major part of making robots that I think, you know, render nicely with fun shading. You know, that cut right there, maybe not the best idea. Let's do one of these, press V. You know, I probably should have, you know, cut this in a more limited fashion in order to prevent heartbreak, but let's just go all out. Let's just, in fact, for this, I'm going to use Clean Mesh from Hard Ops, which will put this back to a completely neutral form. We'll just cut a line down the middle, call it a day. So, if you're using Hard Ops and Boxcutter and you walk away with anything, at least walk away with the idea that having edges and booleans help each other will help you. I have so many people that write because they will just cut things in without any sort of support shapes, be it from either experience in other apps where you're cutting surfaces, or just you know, a misunderstanding of how the boolean works. I think, like, you know, it's important to indicate that if you don't help it solve, Blender will solve. Look at that. That's not an optimal solution. I mean, it's okay because I didn't solve for it, but you can help that. In fact, like right here, we can fix that through manual control. And every time I use the knife tool, I mean, I die a little bit more inside. But it has been tasked out. I think the person on it is doing homework, so I'm not going to say that blue box is more important than homework, but I need that blue box. So let's continue on. Dissolving edges. And just cleaning up, I noticed I cleaned up a little bit more than I even went in there for. So, let's Shift A, add a plane, and for this we're just going to give it a gray shader, maybe make it matte, GZ -1, 8, GZ -1 because the cube never changed in scale. I'm going to press S, 80. And this is our viewport now. So I'm going to Shift A, bring in an area light, and notice that there's no reactions because we're in look dev mode. So if we press Alt V, we can just turn on scene lights real quick. That'll give us this. And I actually think I went in here and set track to my hotkey, but it looks like I didn't. So I'm going to Shift select this, go under Object, and choose Track to Constraint. And press Q, lower the energy, press Q, turn on Contact Shadow. Let's get this light out of here. Put one more up here. Just hit a little bit harder. Maybe even lower that brightness a tad. You know, just going for a quick result here. I have a camera in the scene. So since I'm able to select it, that means it's present. So I'll Shift A, add a sphere. And this is an empty sphere. And all we're going to do is take the camera, we'll just parent it to this object, and we're just going to make it where when we scale it zooms in. So on this frame I'm just going to press I for rotation, and then for 120 we're just going to rotate it just to there. So we just get something like that. And then we also want to go back to the start. I probably could have just set keyframes for scaling as well. Rot scale. Alright, so now we'll select the camera. And let's call this logo. We'll use the helper because it's just the easiest way to get there for now until we do the name stack hard ops connection name pop-up system that we've been talking about. I wanted to come up with a really cool system for naming stuff, like maybe a way to make naming cool enough that people actually do it. Let's call this logo, and we want the camera to focus on the logo. We also want to lower our depth of field size. In fact, let's go over here and set our camera in the camera. Depth of field, f-stop. You gotta turn this thing damn near all the way down to see it. So let's go back. And now it has like a dreamier look around it. However, now we can finally hit the bloom, but we want to hit the threshold too. So we capture only that. And on the camera, since we still have it selected, let's, oh, we already turned on the border. Let's also turn off overlays. And even at this point, we can still just take the floor, make it shinier. You know, just shiny enough. And then over here on the other side, we can still mess with stuff. So let's find our empty. Empty's been hidden. There we are. There's our empty. So over here, I'm just going to select this keyframe and duplicate it. Wait. Rotation and scale. So, just a little quick animation here to tie it off, because this real-time viewport just makes me want to experiment more. It makes me want to try more stuff, just go farther than normal in a video, because, you know, there's no render times to wait on. It's just us and this cube and Boxcity. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of just woke up in the morning and started recording this before I even got on Twitter or talked to any human being whatsoever, or even told my girlfriend good morning. Just kind of rolled out of bed and came out here and did this, because I was meaning to do it yesterday, and I did want to get y'all kind of up to date with this latest update. You know, most of the comments that we've received have been fairly supportive, so I thank everyone for that. I was just telling Proxy, not a single person has said yet, I sure wish I had the old Boxcutter, because, you know, that would be somewhat defeating. Just stick with us here, and we can guarantee you that this will turn into a marvelous experience. In fact, even our idea of replacing the D menu is something that we want to come back and re-examine and provide you something even better, because a lot of users did find the D menu confusing, and I think this gives us an opportunity to start from a clean slate in 2.8 and give you guys an even better modeling experience than before. And, you know, one thing before we go, you know, just, you know, this thing's not rendering, so we can just go back to work. So I'm going to insert a cube, and we're going to use B width to just give it some bevel width, and then we're just going to bring it in here. Let's do it like this, and we'll just do a cut, X the slice. Let's get rid of this one and keep this thing. And let's take a look at what we have here. So if we adjust our modifiers, this is what we actually want compared to what they were giving us. And so we can also select these two objects, press Alt-X to mirror this to the other side. Select this, Control-S save, because everything's a risk now. Not saying we're in 2.6 territory, but boy, 2.79 was a stable version for me. And we'll change this to additive, and it should, oh my god, it did it. I told you guys. Alright, so let's reopen Blender. Standing up now. Reopen our scene where we left off, and let's put Blender back here. And so where were we? We were just putting on the transmission and then changing it to additive. You know, the tutorial could have ended where I had it, and it would have been just a great tutorial. You guys would have saw it and been like, that's a perfect tutorial. Blender didn't crash once, but at the end, just had to push it. Just had to test our luck here. So let's scale that in. And so now we have it set up. So in a way, I just kind of showed you all the workflow I've been using to make glass for messing around with Eevee, but I just can't get over all the new gifts that real-time offers. So back to just talking randomly and just moving my hands more than I'm moving my mouse. I hope everybody's getting acquainted with 2.8 easily and coming to terms with these defaults. Left mouse click was a big thing. I literally complained about it for a whole 24 hours, and then after that I was kind of over it. I was like, you know, I just can't go back to 2.79 now. But, you know, I'm just going to stop talking and just end this video. Sorry, I didn't even plan on being here for 55 minutes. I was going to seriously just come in here, be here 15 minutes, and get out and just let you guys have at it. But I hope y'all are enjoying Boxcutter. We do have more updates planned very soon, and I'll see you guys next time.